I'm Jolene Wynn, and this is the Porn Addict's Wife podcast, episode number 144, Insecurity and Shame. Your life does not have to revolve around your husband's pornography addiction. You are not defined by his choices or by what he sees on a screen. You are not just the porn addict's wife. You are so much more. In this podcast, I'm going to teach you how to go from handling it to healed. Because I've been where you are, and you don't have to stay there. My name is Jolene Wynn. I'm a member of the LDS faith, a certified life coach, and a wife of a former porn addict. And this is a podcast for the porn addict's wife. Hello, my ladies. How are you guys doing? I hope you guys are having a great weekend. We had a really good weekend. I went on a date with my husband, and we went to church today in our new congregation, which was so fun to be around all kinds of new people, and everyone was really friendly and really excited to see new families and new faces. And that was fun to be welcomed in. And of course, everyone always gives me the, oh my goodness, how many kids do you have? And are these all yours? And it was so fun just to meet new people and make new friends and start over a little bit. It's exciting. I actually already got assigned in our church, in our congregation. The members of the congregation help out with different positions in the church. And so I was asked to help out with the primary kids, with all the kids 12 and under. So I am excited to be doing that and to work with all the little kids because my life is full of little kids. And so I love it. I'll just keep going. So I'm excited about that. And it's Super Bowl Sunday. I don't know the end of it yet. It is the middle of the third quarter as I'm recording this. And we're Eagles fans in this house because I grew up in Delaware. So I have been an Eagles fan my whole life. So I am excited. I am looking forward to the outcome of this. And of course, I paused watching the game to come record this for y'all. And I want to, before I dive into this topic, I want to invite you to come coach with me this week. So starting today, Monday, the day that this will come out, I am hosting a 4-day masterclass. This masterclass is going to give you the opportunity to come get coaching experience firsthand, to come see what the difference is between listening to me on the podcast and actually seeing how to apply everything and experience a transformation in coaching. And I really want to encourage you guys to do it. It's only $19 for all 4 days. If you can come live, I would really encourage you to do so that you can ask me your questions. Every single day, I will be teaching a little bit on the topic of the masterclass, which is confident sexuality. And I will also be leaving plenty of time for coaching. So you can come watch other people get coached. You can get coached yourself and bring me your questions and the things that you're struggling with so that I can help you work through them. And you can see the difference between the podcast and coaching. So if you're even just curious, this is a really good opportunity for you to try it out, right? I know that the investment of the coaching program, I know so many of you, I get emails and messages that say, I want to come work with you, but it's such a significant financial investment, and it totally is. So if you guys are hesitant and you're like, well, I don't even know what it's like, maybe I'll hate it, what if it doesn't work for me? Come try it out. This week is just $19. You can sign up at my website. Go to jolenewynn.com. Go to the Coach Week tab on the website, and you'll be able to sign up. Okay. You will get the access to all the call recordings. So even if you miss the first day, that's no problem. You can access all the call recordings for a week, and you will have those. So I would encourage you. So even if you can't come live, to sign up so that you can get access to this material. The last masterclass that I did was a How to Trust masterclass that I did in November, and it was phenomenal. And you get access to that when you join my coaching program. But this is going to be just as good, just on a completely different topic. And it's one that my clients and I have been discussing and diving into. And so I really wanted to give you all the opportunity to do that as well. So again, go to my website, jolenewynn.com. You can go to the Coach Week tab and you can sign up. And then I would love to see you on the calls. So today I wanted to talk to you guys about insecurity and shame. And the reason that this is coming up is a lot of y'all know that there have been there's been some new things that my husband and I have been working through over the last couple of months. I have been working through a lot of thoughts and processing a lot of emotion just with some new information and discoveries. And it has been fascinating and difficult, but really fascinating to watch my brain and what it wants to revert to. And has reverted back to a lot of the thoughts and feelings that I had initially upon discovering my husband's pornography problem. And what those brought up and what I'm noticing is that when I was working through my husband's pornography problem, one of the biggest things that I struggled with was my physical insecurities. I had a very difficult time separating my physical insecurities from his pornography problem, right? I thought that maybe there was something wrong with me. Maybe he wasn't satisfied with me sexually and physically, and that's why he turned to pornography. Now, if you've been here for a hot minute, you know that that's not true, right? Your husband's pornography problem has nothing to do with you. And I've talked on many, many, many podcast episodes all about that. But even understanding it logically, even if you listen to this podcast and you know that, it can still not totally resonate. Right? Even though I understood logically that my husband's pornography problem had nothing to do with me, it didn't feel that way. And if that resonates with you, then keep listening and come coach with me this week so I can help you with that. Because what happens is when we have our logic brain and we have our emotional side, we have two different sides, and we can have two conflicting pieces inside us, right? We might know it logically, but we don't feel it emotionally. Probably because there's a belief underneath there that is feeding that emotion, right? The belief that you're not enough, the belief that you're not pretty enough, not sexy enough, all of those insecurities are feeding the emotion, right? So even though I knew in my brain logically that it had nothing to do with me physically, it didn't feel that way because I had all of these physical insecurities that were feeding shame. And that's what I'm going to talk to you guys about today, because I have seen my brain over the last couple of months go back to that same programming. And it is fascinating to watch. Well, especially over the last couple of weeks, I have felt very insecure is the word that I keep coming up in my brain. I feel very insecure about my place in Rob's thoughts. Right? That's my thought. My thought is, I don't know where I am in your head. I don't know where my place is in your brain, right? And so I feel insecure because that thought is creating a feeling of insecurity, right? Now, what's fascinating is that my brain doesn't want to stop there. And rather than just letting the insecurity be an insecurity, it moves it into shame. So I want to talk to you guys about this today. Now, this is kind of a deep topic. So if this is your first podcast episode, pause and go listen to a couple of other ones because this is going to go deep, okay? But for those of you who have been here, you guys, you can do this. Stay with me, okay? I'm going to dive into a couple definitions today and then go through some examples of how we turn insecurity into shame and why that's such a problem, okay? Okay, now let's start. When I was looking up the definition of insecure, it's an adjective, okay? It's not a state of being, and I want to start there in and of itself, okay? A lot of times we even describe insecurities as a part of our personalities, and I talked about this a couple weeks ago on the podcast about sexual insecurities, right? We take our insecurities, the things we feel insecure about, our thoughts about it, and we make them part of who we are. I am insecure. Right? Do you guys see what I'm saying? We take, rather than just saying, I feel insecure, we'd make it, usually we say it like, I am insecure. Okay? And that is not correct. An adjective describes. It is not describing your state of being. It's not your state of being. It's not your personality trait. It's not a genetic default. It's a feeling that you feel. So an adjective for insecure, an adjective is not confident or assured. It's feeling uncertain, okay? That's what it means. That's what insecure means, okay? Insecurity is a noun, okay? It's uncertainty or anxiety about oneself. It's a lack of confidence, okay? Now, here's what was even more fascinating. Rather than that, like I know that was the specific definition regarding people, but I actually thought the next definition was even more fascinating. And this is the one that I use with my clients more often, okay? Insecurity is a noun, and it is the state of being open to danger or threat, a lack of protection. This is what I love about insecurity. Insecurity is a feeling. You feel insecure. I have an insecurity? No, I feel insecure. And when you feel insecure, what you're really feeling is a lack of protection. You feel open to danger. You guys know what I'm saying? Right? That's why our insecurities bother us. That's why we feel vulnerable when we feel insecure. We feel open to danger. We feel like the things that we're most insecure about are the things that are most vulnerable to us. Do you guys see what I'm saying? You see the connection? When we have insecurities, when we feel insecure about certain things, whether that's a physical attribute or a personality trait or a habit that you're trying to break, whatever it is, if you have something that you feel insecure about, it's really something that opens us up to vulnerability because it's feeling like we are being open to danger, a lack of protection. Why? Because we have an uncertainty about it, a lack of confidence about it. Okay? If you have some kind of physical trait that is not your favorite, but you are totally certain about it, it's no longer an insecurity. Right? Do you guys see, you see what I'm saying? If you don't care about it, if you accept it 100% that it's there, even if you don't love it, then it's no longer something you feel vulnerable about. Then even if somebody mentions it, then it's not a problem. The reason that it bothers us when people point out our insecurities is because we are already insecure about them. We are uncertain about them. We feel threatened by them. But the thing that shifts in order to leave the insecurities behind is not getting rid of the physical attribute or trait or whatever it is that you want to change, the thing you feel insecure about. Changing that does nothing. All you have to do is change your thought about it and be certain about it. I can be certain that I don't like certain things, and that's totally fine. I can be certain that my body is not exactly where I want it to be, but I'm also okay with it, right? I don't have to change my body in order to feel less insecure, in order to feel confident. Remember, insecurity is a lack of confidence. So the opposite of insecurity is confidence. If I want to feel more confident, all I have to do is become more certain, less anxious about myself, whether that's physical or whether that's about my personality or whether that's about my business or whatever it is that you feel insecure about. In your relationship, if you want to feel more secure, if you want to feel more confident, you have to figure out, why do I not feel confident about it in the first place? What am I uncertain about? And usually we feel uncertain because we feel vulnerable. We feel open to threat and danger. And our brain is wired to avoid that, right? So this is why we often try to hide our insecurities. Usually we come out with a false confidence. Usually what happens is we try to avoid it. We try to ignore it a lot of times. We want to pretend like we don't actually think or feel that way about ourselves. We try to talk our way out of it. I don't really feel that way. I can't believe I think that way. I shouldn't think that. That's a terrible thing to think. I know that's not true, and yet it doesn't resonate, right? We try to avoid acknowledging the way that we actually think and feel. And sometimes we even portray a false confidence, hoping that it will somehow create the feeling that we want to feel. But that's just trying to think our way out of our feelings. And ladies, that never works. Telling yourself day in and day out how amazing you are without actually doing the work of processing why you don't feel that way in the first place is never going to work. You cannot fake your way out of your feelings. You can't do it. You have to do both parts. Okay? So a false confidence is really when you're trying to use your brain to overcome your feelings, and that's never going to work. Okay? So that's insecurity. Now let's talk about shame, because again, we're connecting insecurity and shame today. Usually we have an insecurity, something we feel insecure about, and what will happen is that we will then turn it into shame. So let's talk about what shame is. Shame is a noun. Okay? It is a painful feeling. Look, even the dictionary knows that shame is just a feeling, okay? A painful feeling of humiliation or distress, okay? Now, when shame is a verb, it's to make someone feel shame, right? Usually we say ashamed. You make someone feel ashamed, or you try to shame someone into feeling a certain way, right? You try to shame them. You're trying to create the feeling of shame in that person. Now, what's fascinating is that we are often doing this to ourselves. What we do is we take our insecurities and we make them into shame. by applying meaning to a deeper part of our identity. Rather than just letting insecurities be emotions that we feel and thoughts that we think, what we do instead is we take those and we apply them meaning to our person, to ourselves, to who we are. Now, I want to go through some examples today, and hopefully you guys can think of some on your own, but I want to bring these out to help you kind of solidify this. And I really want to encourage you guys to think of, am I doing this to myself in my own life? And if you are, it's no problem. We can totally fix it and I can teach you how. But I want you to notice that it's happening in the first place. What's been super interesting is just in this past week, as I've been sitting with so much insecurity and allowing myself to feel it and process it and work through and identify the thoughts creating it, I have seen the connection between insecurity and shame. And I have been watching my brain take the things that I feel insecure about and turn them into shame. Okay? And shame is a deep hole that is so much harder to get out of. Okay? Let's do some examples. Let's do an example with a physical insecurity. Okay? Let's say you think, I'm too fat. Ladies, have you ever thought this? Say it however you want. I need to lose weight. I really want to lose 5 pounds. Honestly, ladies, I've been moving and my life has been crazy over the last month and a half. I feel like I've gained 10 pounds in the last month and a half, at least. I don't weigh myself. I have no idea how much I weigh. I can't verify that in any way, but I feel that way. I feel fluffy and I feel like I have gained weight and I want to lose 10 pounds. So I'm in the same boat, okay? So example, whatever the thought is that you have about your body, let's just do this example. I'm too fat, right? That's an insecurity about how much you weigh. Okay. But what often is our brain doesn't just leave it there. It takes that thought, that thing that we feel insecure about, and it turns it into something about who we are. Okay. I'm not sexy enough. I'm not woman enough. I'm not a good enough wife. If I were a better wife, if I were a better woman, right? Then I would weigh less. I would be more desirable as a woman, as a wife, as a sexual partner, if I looked different, if I weighed less, if my body didn't look like the way it is now, if I were a different size, if I were shaped differently, whatever it is. Our brain wants to take that insecurity and then apply meaning to who we are, to our identity as a woman, as a wife, as a human being. That is shame. Okay? It takes this insecurity and it applies deeper meaning to it, to our identity as a woman. Do you guys see this? Now, I see this most with physical insecurities with women as part of your identity, right? As our identity as a woman, as a female, as a wife. I see this most with physical insecurities because in our society, women are the way we look at ourselves as women, our value as women is defined so much by what we look like. Right? And our magazines and our movies and our books and our culture and everything like that is all designed to make women are supposed to be pretty. They're supposed to look a certain way. They're supposed to look X, Y, and Z. And now we all might have a slight variation of what that looks like and how we define that. But that's the general idea, right? Even in biologically speaking, right? The men are the protectors. They're big. They're strong. The women are supposed to be the ones who are attractive, so that the male of the species will find a mate they find attractive. So the female's job is to be attractive to the male, right? That's very basic. I know I'm boiling that down very basically. That's kind of the general idea, right? We still have that's part of our identity, right? Okay, now let's move on to an emotional or like a personality example, right? We did the physical example. Now let's do like a personality, emotional example. I yell at my kids too much. Let's say that's something you're insecure about. I'm just giving you my own personal examples here. Okay. The things I feel and think about my own body, the things I think and feel about myself, right? I yell at my kids too much. That's my insecurity. I'm just being real and honest. You guys have heard me say this before. Now, that's just the insecurity. Shame is when I take that insecurity and I make it mean something about me as a mom. I'm not a good mom. I yell at my kids too much, therefore, I'm not a good mom. I'm too fat, therefore, I'm not a desirable woman. Do you guys see the pattern? Do you guys see the difference? It's when we have a thought or a feeling that we think, right? I have this thought, I'm too fat. It makes me feel insecure about my body. But then I take that and I apply meaning to my identity, to who I am. That is shame. Because shame is a painful feeling of humiliation or distress. I shame myself. This is actually being a verb. I shame myself because I take something that I feel insecure about, I feel vulnerable about, I feel open to a threat, and then I feel distressed or humiliated about it because I make it mean something about me. Do you guys see this? Do you guys see how we do this as women, as human beings? Do you guys see this? Men do this in different ways, or maybe you have it in a different way. Maybe you might have a thought like, I don't make enough money. And then you make it mean something about you as a provider. I'm not a good provider for my kids, right? Or maybe my house is too messy. And maybe you make that mean that you're not a good housekeeper. You're not a good wife. You're taking that and making it something about you. And all of it boils down to not being good enough. Do you guys see this? Not a good enough wife, not a desirable enough woman, not a good enough provider, not a good enough mom. All of it boils down to this fear, to this idea that we're not enough, and that is shame. Do you guys see this? I'm a slow learner. It was shocking to me as I saw this connecting this week. There have been some times where my physical I've worked through a lot of my physical insecurities, ladies. They're mostly gone. But sometimes my brain wants to pop these things back up. And one of the things that has come up with me feeling so insecure right now, and again, it's not necessarily physically, but again, my thought is I don't know where I am in Rob's brain. Okay, that's the thought. And I feel insecure. And when I have that thought in my head, then my brain starts to look for evidence of how that is true, right? Which is what our brain does. Our brain's job is to prove us right, which is awesome most of the time because it helps us win a lot of arguments. However, sometimes it's not awesome. Like when I'm looking for evidence of how I don't know where I am in my husband's brain, right? That's when it's not awesome, okay? And I'm working on that. But when I have this feeling of insecurity, then my brain is looking for evidence and then it wants to make it mean that I'm not enough for him. Because if I were enough for him, then it would look like X, Y, and Z. Do you guys see this? It was so interesting to me to see how this played out, and it did it in really subtle ways that I didn't even notice it was happening until this week, okay? But I want you guys to be on the lookout for these. I want you guys to take a look at your own brains and ask yourself, okay, am I taking the things that I feel insecure about, right? Are the things that I don't feel confident about, the things that I don't feel assured of, the things that I feel uncertain about myself, the way that I look, the way that I am, my personality, the way that I interact in our relationship. What do I feel uncertain about? And take that, and am I making that mean something about me? Am I taking that emotion and applying meaning to it where it has none? Am I shaming myself with my insecurities? Am I using my insecurities to shame myself? That is a question I want you guys to ask yourself. Really take a look. And if you're struggling with this, then I really want to encourage you guys to come coach with me this week. Again, you can go to my website, you can sign up today, and you can join me because I want to help you work through this. Because just because that's how you're thinking now, just because that's the way that your brain is working now, doesn't mean that that's the way it has to continue to work. I've been looking at my bracelet a lot. For those that came to my Go Forward event, my live event in Nashville this fall, I gave everybody a bracelet. It's a gold bracelet, and it's inscribed with the words Go Forward. And I've been thinking a lot about that. And I say this to my clients all the time, that your past is completely irrelevant. Now it's really about how you're going to decide to move forward from this point on, from today, this moment, this second, right now. And that's what I've been thinking about. Just because your brain has been shaming you, just because you've been shaming yourself with your insecurities, using your insecurities against yourself to shame yourself, doesn't mean that you have to continue to do that. And that's a reminder that I needed to tell myself this week. Just because I feel insecure doesn't mean I need to use that as an excuse to shame myself and to start thinking that I'm not good enough, because it's completely untrue. Ladies, you're worth it. You're worth every effort. You're worth every penny. You're worth every hour, every minute, every moment of energy that you spend on yourself. You are worth it. It's all about going forward. That's why that's the name of my program is called Go Forward, because it's not about what happened yesterday. It's not about what happened an hour ago. It's about what you're going to do next. Your life has happened up to this point in a certain way for reasons. Maybe those reasons are other people and their actions. Maybe those reasons are the way that your brain has been wired to work. Maybe those reasons are insecurities that you started developing when you were 11 years old. Maybe for all of those reasons combined, you are where you are now. I don't care. What are you going to do next? You can either stay stuck or you can go forward. And if you want to go forward, then I'd love to help you. I love you, ladies, so much. I will see you guys next week on a brand new episode. Happy Valentine's Day, ladies. Take care. Hey, lady. I used to think that I wasn't enough. I used to think that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't a good enough mom, that I wasn't sexy enough as a wife. And I learned how to stop doing that. And I want to teach it to you too. I actually wrote it all down in a book that you can buy on Amazon. And it's called The Not Enough Wife, Why We Look Outside Ourselves and How to Stop. And in this book, I go through my life examples and lessons that I have learned that it helped me to understand how I started looking for my worth and my value from all the wrong things, from everything outside of me. I tried to change everything about myself in order to feel better about myself, and I realized I was doing it all backwards. And in this book, I teach you all about that. I want to invite you to read it. You can go get a copy for yourself today and get one for a friend. Again, you can find it on Amazon. Just search it up. The Not Enough Wife, Why We Look Outside Ourselves and How to Stop. I can't wait to hear what you think.